Welcome to the Beauty in Battle podcast, where we talk about winning in marriage by waging a war. I'm Jason Benham. I've got my girlfriend / wife, Tori Benham, with me, and we are here to talk to you about how Satan tries to get you to fight face to face with your spouse, but God designed you to fight shoulder to shoulder against Satan so that you can win in your marriage. Fighting together draws you together. We cannot wait to jump in. So here we go. So here's the question. Do you want peace in your relationship? Right?
I think the answer is yes.
I just had to come out with a powerful question. Do you want peace in your relationship? Yes. Everybody wants peace, right? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Peace in your relationship. And so I want to dive in because I was reading in 2 Corinthians, and for those of you who are following along with us on our live stream that my brother and I have called Living Among Lions. We do a Thursday morning live stream on at Benham Brothers. But everybody that does it, for the most part, is a part of our yearly Bible reading plan, where we try to get people to read through the Bible cover to cover, or just the New Testament in 1 year. And so I follow the same plan that I followed ever since I was 18 years old, going off to Liberty, decided I was going to read the Bible cover to cover. So I've been doing this Bible reading plan, and every year around September, I get into the books of 1st and 2nd Corinthians. And so I just read 2nd Corinthians, and 2nd Corinthians jumped out, and all of a sudden I said, oh my gosh, I saw 5 things in this one verse that will help couples so much. So I went and asked Tora, I was like, hey, we got to do a podcast on this. So she's graciously letting me do a podcast on this, but 5 keys. I love it.
I'm excited about hearing this.
5 keys to living at peace in your marriage and with your spouse. But
that especially resonates with me as a 9 on the Enneagram. I hate to always bring it back to the Enneagram, but I am a 9, which is a peacemaker, which means I love peace. Like there's something inside of me that is very, very much looking for it in life. So I can't wait to dig into this one. 5
keys to being at peace in your marriage. But before we get going, Tori has an awesome song. So this is our love song.
Our love song. So I hope you guys all enjoyed last week's.
Ruel.
Yes. Isn't it so good, you guys?
Yeah. Did you dance to it, huh? Tell us.
Tell us about it.
Why am I hearing nothing but silence right now?
So this week, we are going to introduce you guys to another one of our faves. Called Close Your Eyes by Michael Bublé.
Who is incredible.
Oh, he's so good.
Best ever. All right, play a little clip.
A little teaser here.
Here's to you, the one that always pulls us through. Always do what you gotta do. You're one of a kind. Thank God you're mine.
Now that's good. That's good music. Michael Bublé has the most, how do you even describe his voice? It's like so mellow, so like chill. I hear his voice.
Just kind of screams peace.
Yeah, and you know his number 1 song?
What?
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
And
it is kind of feeling like that.
You know, it is crazy though. We should
we
should do a podcast on when is it too early to listen to Christmas music? Because our daughter, Lundy, has already started listening to Christmas music. So we're in the beginning of October. Like this is
pretty early. We usually try to wait until after Halloween. But it's really hard when the weather's getting cool and it just that vibe is in the air.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, and when the seasons come, I always have certain movies that I want to watch. Obviously, everybody wants to watch Home Alone 1 and 2 at Christmas. That's epic. I've never gotten into the Christmas Story. Like, I think that movie's actually pretty stupid, but there's several other good ones. We'll share that with you whenever we do December podcast, but it is in October, and I have a list of movies that I like to watch in October.
Yes,
One of them, which is kind of weird, it's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp. There's just something about that movie. Every October, I want to watch it. Anyway, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. So,
movies bring you a little bit of peace, don't they? You can turn your brain off.
I heard a guy say once, and he's a movie maker, big time movie maker. He's made some of the hugest, I think, like Batman and some of the biggest ones. And he said, the way that we write our movies is we want to give our viewers an opportunity at delayed consciousness. And I thought that was great.
That is
essentially what people want to do is they want to zone out. They want to get out of their lives for 2 hours and get into somebody else's life, get into another story. And we have mirror neurons in our brains that mirror what we see other people going through. So if we get into a really good movie with good music and all that kind of stuff, it's as if we're living that. So that's why you end up crying in really good movies, or you're scared out of your mind in a movie, even though you know it's not real, it's not happening. Your brain doesn't know that.
Right. That's why we've had to stop watching really scary movies.
Oh my gosh. Oh, do you know what? Like they're showing serious, I mean, here Tori and I are just having a conversation here on this podcast, but they're showing people are really struggling who binge watch true crime.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like all about true crime, but I did notice I have to turn off some of these true crime things that I've watched because I feel a little agitated in my spirit, and I feel like I start to change.
Yeah, and I especially feel it. I'm like I'm up all night, running up, checking on the kids.
They're not dead. That dude's in jail. Okay, but anyway, so can't binge watch true crime too much. Because that then doesn't lead to peace. How'd you like that little transition?
I love it. And it is so true though. You have to be really conscientious about what you're letting in.
Oh yeah. The devil can only get in 2 ways, your eyes and your ears. All right. So be careful what you're taking in. All right. Now let's jump into 5 keys to experiencing peace in your marriage, because this is the one thing that you need in your marriage, and you need it in your own personal life. And we'll talk about that in just a second, but you have to have peace. So what is peace? So I actually looked up the definition, Tor.
Okay.
You don't know the definition of peace, do you?
I don't think I know your definition.
I didn't know the definition until I looked it up. Merriam-Webster, peace is tranquility, being free from disturbance or agitation. Like who doesn't want that in their relationship? Just that tranquil, that feeling of I'm not disturbed, I'm not agitated, it's all good.
Yes.
But listen, here's the key. Number 1 key. Actually, no, I'm not going to give you the number 1. I'm not going in the 5 keys yet, but I just want to give you this overarching thought that the peace of God in your life is determined by living at peace with others.
Wow.
God limits himself in his relationship with you, determined by how you treat other people. So if you treat other people bad, you're treating God's kids bad. That's going to negatively affect your relationship with God. So if you want peace with God, you need peace with others. The primary other in your life is your spouse.
Yeah.
So we love reading all those scriptures, do unto others what you would have them do unto you. And we always think about others, like poor people, needy people, the people that we work with and that kind of thing. But anytime you read a scripture that tells you to do something for others, place your spouse's picture right beside it, because the primary other in your life is your spouse. So we've got to make sure that we're treating our spouse right. Even Peter, I forget it's in 1st or 2nd Peter. I think it's 1 Peter 4. I think. Don't quote me on that. I don't even know if 1 Peter has 4 chapters. But Peter does tell us that God doesn't listen to men who don't treat their wife right. He won't listen to their prayers. So a man who's being rough with his wife and not dealing with her emotionally the way that she needs to be dealt with, and he's not being sensitive or whatever, God says, I'm not listening to your prayers. So he ties himself in his relationship with us, determined on how we treat other people.
Wow.
Man, if you're a husband listening to this, whew, like I even got cold chills just saying that.
And I love the verse in 1 John 4:19. It says, our love for others, it is our grateful response to the love God first demonstrated for us. It's our grateful response. I love that verse so much, because oftentimes we don't maybe feel grateful towards our spouse. Maybe we're going through something, there's a rift in the relationship, and it's hard to really feel grateful for them in particular in those moments. But we can always have a grateful response to God, because he doesn't fail us.
It's good.
His love is so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so our grateful response to that love that he has for us is for our spouse.
Yes. And one of the primary thoughts that we talk about in our book, I actually got it from Gary Thomas, who's written a lot of marriage books, Sacred Marriage. But God's not just your father, he's your father-in-law. And if he's your father-in-law, how does he want you to treat his son or daughter? So buckle up, because that's important. And it tells you how important that relational piece is going to be. So Paul wrote 3 letters to the Corinthians. We actually only have 2. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either, but I was reading a commentary on it. So he wrote these 3 letters. We have these 2, and it covers lots of different issues. Among them was the issue of disunity. So Paul then gives secrets to unity. And he's like, hey, if you want to be unified as the church, as the body with other believers, this is what you need to do. Now, any principle that you read in the scripture, you want to apply it in its immediate context. So Paul's talking about unity in the church, but you can also take that principle and apply it to the extraneous context, which is anything outside of that context. So we can apply this in our relationship with our kids. We can apply the same principles in our relationship with our marriage. So when I read this, I was like, boom, that is like good stuff for Beauty and Battle podcast. 2 Corinthians 13 is Paul's it's his last warning in his last letter. And the summary of it is found in verse 11 of 2 Corinthians 13. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to reverse out verse 11. I'm going to give you the second part of it first. And then we're going to get to the first part.
Okay.
Listen, the second part, and he says this, and the God of love and peace will be with you.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't want that?
That sounds
like,
good.
do you want the God of peace to be with you so his peace can be yours? Like, do you want peace in your relationship? That's the second part of the verse.
All right, tell me how to get it.
Well, then we're going to have to do these 5 things. He says this, finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice, strive for full restoration, encourage one another, be of one mind, live in peace. So that's the 5 steps to peace. And we're going to go through each one of these. But let's start with number 1. He says, rejoice. Peace is born out of joy. Like, if you don't have joy, you've got a problem. And I read this great quote by a guy that I follow named Skip Moen. He's a Hebrew theologian. And he said, anything that's acting in its God-designed purpose is an expression of joy. He said, so if you're not feeling joy, he said, take a walk in nature, watch a bird, look at the tree swaying in the wind.
Wow.
Go to the ocean and watch the waves. All of those things are acting in alignment with the purpose that God made them. Those things are an expression of joy. So get around those things. Like, you need to figure out your purpose. Why did God make you? And align with that purpose. And when you do that, you will begin to experience joy.
Yeah, that's so good. I remember reading years ago that there was like some kind of scientific research that showed that people who looked at a tree for a certain amount of minutes a day experienced
de-stresses your life.
It de-stressed. It was a de-stressing tool.
Yeah.
And it was scientifically proven. I was like, oh, and ever since then I'm like, if I get stressed and I just need to get into nature. Like, it to me feels so good to be in nature. It truly like relaxes me. It brings me down a notch.
Yeah.
And so you explaining it like that makes so much sense.
Yeah, because, God made trees, he made us. So we get out there, a tree doesn't have a choice. It acts in accordance with its nature. An apple tree, it simply produces apples. But we humans, we have a choice. We can act in accordance with our purpose or not. Right. We can act in accordance with our own nature or not. Like, God made us to do certain things. And when we do these things and we experience joy. Now, if you don't have joy, then you need to rejoy. That's where it says rejoice. Well, how do you rejoy? Which is re-up in your joy. Well, the first is you got to know God is in control. That's Psalm 97:1. It says, the Lord reigns, let the earth rejoice. I thought you were going to say it. I was kind of leading you into that one.
Thank you.
You did it. The Lord reigns, let the earth rejoice. So the earth rejoices after it recognizes that the Lord reigns. The Lord is in control. So that's a part of how you rejoy, you re-up your joy, is you got to recognize that God is in control. But number 2, you've got to give him what you have. That's 1 Samuel 2, where Samuel the prophet, Samuel the priest, before he became priest, obviously he had to be born. So his mom, Hannah, was barren. And she prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And she was so discouraged that she would have a kid, and that she actually made a commitment. She said, okay, God, if you give me a kid, I'll give him up. If you give me a boy, I'll give him up and I'll let him be a priest. So, well, Samuel was that boy. The next year she had Samuel. She weaned him for 2 years, and then she gave him up to the priest,
She
Eli.
weaned him after 2 years.
After 2 years. Yes, that's what I meant. Thank you, Tor. I've never been a mom before, so I don't even know what wean means. So, but here Samuel he now is raised as a priest, but the scripture says that Hannah, after she gave him up, she literally brought him to Eli. It said she went home rejoicing. She took what she wanted more than anything in the world, and she gave it up for God, and she went home rejoicing. So you want to rejoy? You're not feeling much joy? You need to give more.
Wow.
You need to give of yourself more. Volunteer, help somebody.
That's so good. It's funny that you bring that story up. I was just talking to my friend April this week, and her oldest son is moving out of the house. And she was telling me how she was dealing with that and how the Lord just gave her that verse in Samuel about Hannah giving up her son, and how she only had him for 2 years, but she walked away rejoicing. And she said, how much more should I be rejoicing that I've had my son for, 19, 20 years. And now God is calling him into something else. And that brought her so much peace to know that, that she had this time, this beautiful long stretch and this beautiful season with her son. And it's not that it's over, but that particular season of him being under her roof is over. But she was processing it by rejoicing, by being grateful. And she said, I feel like it's been really hard, but I feel so good about it.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool. It was a real encouragement to me, because it is hard as you let your babies go.
It's not hard for me, honestly. I got to be honest. I want them to go to college and get out.
Yeah, but you miss them.
Yeah, I do. I do totally miss them, but I'm also like wanting to be an empty nester so we can walk around the house naked.
Okay.
No? Not going to happen?
Is that the way you're going to rejoice?
That might be rejoicing for me, but maybe not for Tori. So anyways, that's key number one. If you want peace in your relationship, start by rejoicing. Like, you need joy in your own individual life. If you're not experiencing joy in your own individual life, you can't bring it to your marriage.
Yeah.
So get your ducks in a row. Joy. Okay, number 2. This is straight out of the verse. Strive for restoration. So let's just think about that. Look at those 2 words, strive and restore. Like, let's think about restoring a new car.
Yeah.
If you want to restore a new car, you have to take something that's all broken and dilapidated, and you actually have to bring it back to what it was originally intended to be.
Yeah.
It's sparkling, it shines, it runs, it's really pretty, it smells good, and all these things. Your relationship is meant to thrive like that.
Right.
But the natural path that your relationship is going to go without you striving and working hard toward it is going to be dilapidated. It's not going to be good. So you have to strive for restoration. Like, strive means work hard.
Yeah.
Be willing to work hard in your relationship. Restore is make things right.
Yeah.
Like, if you have any type of relational rift with your spouse, you have to restore that. You have to bring restoration. You are responsible. You are directly responsible for the emotional well-being of your spouse.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are some situations where maybe your spouse is going through a mental breakdown or whatever the case may be, and there are some things that you just can't control. But you have to recognize that whatever your spouse is feeling, you need to take responsibility for that. You need to take responsibility and jump in with them. And you're striving for restoration. You want to see them be whole, be the person that God made them to be.
And I will say, with that, in time, it does get so much easier. Like, I think about the beginning of our relationship, we had to work really, really hard to restore. Like, there would be some kind of conflict, and sometimes it would be days of going back and forth.
Of you hating me.
Yeah. But I feel like, because that has become such a priority to get back to being connected, that we've worked really, really hard at making that time of restoration shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
But it takes practice.
Yes.
And it does get much easier. Like, I'll be honest, this morning you and I got into a little skirmish. It wasn't that big of a deal, but there was a little
until
conflict.
you figured out that you were wrong and I was right.
Yeah. The truth is, I was actually wrong.
You were?
I was wrong.
Oh, you didn't say that.
Well, I apologize. Do you not remember that?
Maybe
That's
not.
why we're not fighting anymore.
That's true. Well, let's just fight on our podcast.
But honestly, it kind of went fast. Like, I recognized that I was actually wrong. I actually made a mistake, and I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm actually wrong. And we kind of laughed about it. But it was so much shorter than it had been.
Yeah.
I don't know, 10 years ago, even maybe 5 years ago. Those little skirmishes would take a lot longer. But now it's like, it's like you begin to learn that, oh my goodness, we can actually get through this relatively quickly. I say all that just to say, you know, if you're at the beginning of your relationship and it just seems like there's skirmish after skirmish and you're trying to work through it, but it seems to take forever, it will get better. If you're committed to resolve, just keep practicing. You'll get better. It will get easier. And before long, you'll be, you know, kind of working through these things.
If you strive for restoration, which means you work hard at it, restoring gets easier. Plain and simple. Exactly what Tori just said. So that's there's your first two keys: rejoice and then strive for restoration. Number 3, be an encourager. Be an encourager. Encourage means to make courageous. And one of the best ways to do that is to let your spouse know you're in it with them, whatever that it is. You know, it could be a wife to her husband with his job. It could be a husband to his wife with maybe homeschooling the kids or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm in this with you. And it makes you courageous when you know that somebody is willing to jump down in whatever situation that you have. They're willing to jump in with you. You know, I love the definition of love by Tony Evans. He says, love is compassion with standards. But when you understand what compassion is, it actually takes it over the top. Compassion means to suffer together. So if you want to show compassion for somebody, you're jumping in the suffering with them.
Yeah.
You know, and I've also heard it said there were 2 different types of rings in marriage. There's the wedding ring and the suffer ring.
Yeah.
That life involves suffering.
Yeah, life is hard.
Yeah. And so true compassion is jumping down into your spouse's thing. With, if they're in the pit, get into the pit.
Yeah.
You know? And I will say one side note to that. You have to be somebody who's willing to get out of the pit.
Right.
Because if you're somebody who likes to wallow in the pit, then especially if I've seen this happen a lot as it relates to men not willing to jump into the pit with their wife. If their wife is down into the emotional pit where it's, you know, she's kind of working through some things and it's murky.
Right.
If they can't trust that the wife at some point wants to get out of that pit and doesn't want to just wallow in the emotion, he won't jump in the pit with you. He's got to know that you're willing to get out of it.
Yeah.
You can't.
It's like that verse where Jesus says, do you want to be healed?
Yes. Oh, that's a good point.
You know, it's like, okay, I've gone through this with different women, talking with them, and they're like, I just want him to be able to understand what I'm feeling and to go there with me, but he just wants to fix it, right? This is like the very typical husband-wife conflict. The man wants to fix it, she just wants to talk about it, and it's like, well, are you telling him that you do want to get healed? Like you do want restoration, you want to get out? Yeah,
you want him to use his gifting of fixing things at some point?
At some point, right. Like, I need to talk this through, and I don't really want you to fix it yet, but at the end, I do want your input because I do want to get well. Yeah. I do want to be healed. I do want restoration, right? Like it's starting with the end in mind. But I just need to talk about it first.
Yes. But that's all about being an encourager. Like, you want to make your spouse courageous, which means jump down into the situation with them.
Right.
Okay. So get into it. I mean, one of the best things that a wife can do for a husband, since I'm speaking from the husband's perspective here, be fully interested in what your husband is doing to make money for your family. Like, jump into it with him. Okay, so how was it with this or whatever? Try to learn what he does.
Yeah.
If you don't understand it, try to learn something so that you can have an educated conversation about it. So for Tori and I, that's something that she's done for me that I definitely, she encourages me. It makes me want to do better at the business that we've got. Now, fortunately, Tori and I worked really hard to get to where we can work together. So now we're actually working together and we love it. So that's being an encourager. So 5 steps: rejoice, strive for restoration, be an encourager. Number 4, be like-minded. This is an important one. You want to, it's the definition of like-minded is having a like disposition or purpose of the same mind or habit of thought. And I like that phrase, habit of thought. Like you really do want to morph into each other, essentially. Now, both of you are individuals. Both of you are unique. You don't want to be the exact same person at all. But when it comes to living on purpose and living a life of peace, having a relationship that's founded on peace, like-mindedness, habits of thought need to be close to the same.
Right.
Like you can't just be constantly bickering about stuff. It can't be one constant disagreement after another. Constant disagreement negatively affects relational depth, period. If you're constantly disagreeing on stuff, you guys just got to figure out a way to agree.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying you have to become the same person, but you've got to seek agreement.
We do this thing called the Symbis test with couples.
Yeah. And
I mean, we've done it with a lot of couples. And one of the things that comes up pretty much, I don't think we've ever had one couple that haven't had the resolute mindset.
Yes.
And that's because the ones that we've done it with all have a strong faith in Christ. And so all of these couples, they're very different. Like they all think totally different. I'm talking about husband, wives, you've got such a range of personalities and differences, but yet because of their faith in Christ, they all test in this one particular resolute mindset.
Yep.
So it's like, well, that's the main thing. Like that's the thing that you focus on. My dad always says, keep the main thing the main thing. It's like, okay, you guys are really different. You got a lot of differences here.
Yeah.
But you both have a resolute mindset because of your relationship with Christ. So let's kind of like dig a little bit into this.
Yeah.
And what are the things that because there are a lot of things that you answered in this questionnaire that are similar because of your faith. So let's dive into some of that to see that you guys are like-minded. This is a really good place to start. You guys are like-minded, but I think so much of the time we're focusing on how different we are, how different we think, but we forget that there's this really important component to your relationship that's you're getting right.
Yeah.
You guys are like-minded in this area.
That's why it's so important. I mean, we cannot over stress the importance of you guys doing things together, finding things that you can enjoy together. Like if the husband likes this certain set of things, hunting, golfing, fishing, whatever, and the wife wants nothing to do with it. She wants to shop, go for weekend trips with her friends to the beach or whatever. And she's got that thing, but they don't have anything that intersects that they enjoy doing together. That is a major, major, major problem. And it will create emotional distance, and you'll hover around a 4 or 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. And you may think that that's good enough. It's not. You don't realize what you're missing.
Yeah.
So wife, learn how to fish. Like, oh, I hate it. I don't want just do it. Go hunt, go shooting with him. Go to the shooting range or something. Husband, figure out what you can do when she shops. Like your one thing is, I did this with Tori once. We were in New York and she really wanted to shop. And I said, okay, so you're going to go shopping, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find the closest pizza joint to wherever it is that you're shopping. And I'm going to hit that pizza joint and I'll meet you back at the place where you, and I forget, I think I hit like 3 or 4. I think it might've been 4 different pizza places, got a slice of pepperoni just to compare. And it was actually a really fun time. So Tori didn't feel rushed by me when she was shopping and I was kind of doing my thing, but we were actually doing it together.
We're doing it together.
And constantly coming back and doing stuff. So that's important, being like-minded. If you're
find things that you like and do them together.
Yes.
Don't just be about what you love to do and what you like to do. And then he does what he likes to do while you're doing what you like. If they're not together, I mean, there's a time for that. There's a time, you go on a girlfriend trip, I don't know, once a year, whatever it may be. I'm not saying that that's wrong.
That's right.
I'm just saying, as a rule of thumb, your relationship will thrive when you find things that you like to do together and you do them.
Yes, that is so true. And I can honestly say that it happened with Tori and it's happened with me. There are things that I like to do now that I didn't used to like to do until I forced myself to do them. And now I actually really like it. But Tori, one of hers is football, like college football on a Saturday. I mean, she remembers growing up and kind of hearing a little bit about it, but when she and I started dating, I was all about college football and college game day on Saturday. Starts at 9, ends at 12. just watching that. And now we can record it so we can watch 3 hours in about 45 minutes. And they always have a great story. But now Tori, like, she's like, okay, what games are on? What time's college game down? When are we going to watch it?
Yeah, it became something we did together. We loved the story, the game day stories behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Those are always so good. And it became something that we did together. We start to really enjoy. Now I love it. Like, it's something that I actually look forward to just as much as Jason, just because it's become our thing. It's become something fun to do together.
And you know what's great about that? I've got a really good buddy of mine. His name is Joe Johnson in Tampa, and his wife, Lindsay Johnson. They have the exact same thing where Lindsay started watching football with Joe, and Joe loves it so much. But what's funny about that is Joe will send me a text on a Saturday, so he'll text me and David back and forth, and we're all texting each other about the games. And he'll say something like, yeah, Lindsay was really excited. She came up to me on Friday and said, I can't wait for college football tomorrow. And he's like, you have no idea what that just did to me as a husband. So bravo to you, Lindsay. That's a little shout out. But
fun.
So do stuff, be like-minded, do stuff together. If you're not like-minded, what you need to do is focus on your purpose, big picture thinking, and start doing things together. Okay, so be like-minded. Now let's look at the fifth key to living in peace in your relationship. And it's this: be a peacemaker. So you might think, well, that sounds a little redundant. If you want peace, be at peace. No. Be a peacemaker. Like think about
proactive.
Think about a pacemaker.
Yeah.
Like the pacemaker inside, that regulates someone's heartbeat. It actually is regulating the beat of the heart.
Yeah.
So you're being someone who regulates the peace that's in your relationship. So it's like a thermostat. It's not like a thermometer. A thermometer doesn't regulate the heat. A thermometer just says, is it hot or cold? What's the temperature? A thermostat, on the other hand, is a temperature regulator. That the thermostat says, hey, it's too cold in here, we're going to warm it up. Or, hey, it's too hot in here, we're going to cool it down. So when you enter into a relationship, are you increasing the chaos or are you inspiring the calm?
That's so good. One of the things that I learned through studying the Enneagram and being a 9, which is the peacemaker, is that you can either be a peacekeeper or a peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
A peacekeeper is somebody that's all about their peace. And so
that's good.
Yeah, you're all about keeping your own peace. So that might be withdrawing from somebody who you might be in conflict with, or, whatever it may be, but it's all about you, really. But being a peacemaker is proactive. It's going out into the world and using that thing that God put inside of me to want peace and making the world a better place because of it. So it's being proactive, and it's saying, you know what, I'm in conflict with you, so I'm actually going to pursue you, and we're going to work through this conflict because that's going to bring true peace at the end. And so I'm going to get outside of myself and do what's uncomfortable for me to bring peace.
That's good. So that's it. There's our 5 keys. Let me read the verse to you. 2 Corinthians 13:11. And apply this to your relationship, apply this to your marriage, and this is going to help you immensely. The Apostle Paul knew what he was talking about. He's got a lot of wisdom, and just God poured it into him. And he says this: finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice. Now apply this to your relationship. Strive for full restoration, encourage one another, be of one mind, live in peace, and the God of love and peace will be with you. That is incredible. And that's what we claim for you, is that you can live in peace and that you'll experience peace in your relationship.
That's awesome.
That's it, Tor.
Okay, so we're going to talk about real quick our favorite thing that we ate this week.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to tell them about our favorite breakfast joint.
Are you telling me?
Huh?
You telling me to tell them? I want to tell them. Listen, we love you. You're our listeners. What's our favorite breakfast joint?
So it's the famous Toastery.
Oh, yeah. It's expanding all over the country now.
It is. And I think we might have already mentioned this, but it was the first place that you took me in Davidson, the very first it was called Toast. Yeah. And now it's called the Famous Toastery because they franchised it. But the very first one is right up the road from us, And it was the first restaurant that Jason started to take me after
Yes.
the Lord convicted him that he was spending like lots of money on his clients, but not so much money on his bride. And we were doing Panera, trying to get a date under $10.
Yeah. Well, this is back when Toast, when it was just a single restaurant, it actually had dinner and they had a pretty fancy steak.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to get one. Now they don't have that. It's only breakfast and lunch
it's
now.
turned into a breakfast joint. But anyways, it's still our favorite. Now it's franchised. They're kind of spreading all over the place. You might even have one near you. But the newest thing on the menu that I absolutely love, it's called the Power Bowl.
Yeah.
And basically the base is quinoa. It's a bunch of veggies like summer squash, zucchini, onions, and
Shrimp.
well, I'm talking veggies still, babe.
Oh, sorry. I'm ready to get to the protein. Spinach.
Mushrooms, a bunch of veggies, and then you pick your protein, which I always do shrimp because their shrimp is really good. And then there's spinach on top, so it's got a lot of veggies going on, a lot of spinach on top, and then you get an added protein, an egg of your choice.
Oh, sunny
Actually,
side up.
I think it's 2 eggs, so so there's a lot of protein. So, anyways, this Power Bowl, I actually tried to make it. Oh, the last thing is there's like a balsamic glaze on top of that. I love it. I don't think you love balsamic glaze, but oh my gosh, it was so good. So I tried to make this at home this week and you loved it.
Mm-hmm. It was incredible.
And so I love going to restaurants, finding something I love and trying it out at home. And this one I felt like it was really easy to make.
Yeah.
It was just real simple. Quinoa.
So you're going to
bunch of veggies.
You're going to perfect the recipe and then share it at some point?
Maybe at some point, yeah. I'll try to see if I can kind of come up with my own recipe. I have no idea how they make it, but I thought the one that I made it my own balsamic glaze, which is actually really easy. All you do is you take balsamic and a little bit of brown sugar and you put it on the stove, you boil it, and then you turn it down and it becomes a balsamic reduction.
Yes. Well, I can tell you this. Some things about Tori. The first is if we go to a restaurant, she really likes the dish, she's going to make it at home. The second thing is if she really gets it to where she likes it, she will post it on Instagram. So you have to follow us at Jason and Tori to get these little fun recipe things that Tori drops every now and then.
Yep.
You should probably do it more than every now and then. Wouldn't that be
try
great?
To get on that.
You could become one of those cook ladies.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
No,
I think I'll stick.
Not going to do it. Stick with marriage.
But I love food. And so this one was this Power Bowl. If you're in I guess it's not just North Carolina now. I think it's expanding. I don't know.
It's all over.
It's all over. So if you guys have a famous toastery, you gotta check out their Power Bowl. And then hopefully I'll be able to tell you exactly how to make one even better.
I love that. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. 5 steps, 5 keys to living in peace. It's just so awesome when we can take biblical principles and we can apply them to our relationship. That's like our most favorite thing in the whole entire world to talk about. So if we do it, if we apply those things, we'll begin to experience peace, tranquility in our relationship, and there's no better place to be, let me tell you. So in the meantime, we appreciate you listening. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.